everyone. My name's Bella Tommey. I'm also known as Bella Grace. I run a company called Bella Grace Wellness. I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, holistic health educator, and toxin-free living activist. As you can probably hear, I'm from London, hence the funny accent, but I moved to Austin, Texas about 5 years ago with my family to set up a sustainable community for adults with autism. I'll pull up a little picture of us. Here we are. You may recognize my mum, Polly Tommey. She made a pretty controversial documentary, Vaxxed, and traveled the nation on a bus recording stories of vaccine injury. But why? Why am I here, and why do my family do what we do? Well, it all stems from my brother, Billy. Billy was diagnosed with severe autism at the age of 2. We were told that he would never ever live a life with purpose and that pretty much we should just institutionalize him and that would be that. But that was definitely not good enough for my family. We refused to give up on him. We made several changes with Billy after loads and loads of research. And the first one was switching to an entirely organic, toxin-free diet, fueling his body with whole foods. We saw incredible results. In fact, the actual entire family went organic and whole food diet, and we all were thriving. But we still wanted more. And so what we did next was cut out environmental toxins in our home, cleaning products, beauty products, all of these things that really we knew nothing about until we did a little bit of research. And quite frankly, we were horrified. The regulation, there's none there. And I'll go into that in a bit. There's none there, and these ingredients are horrifying for our bodies, and I can't believe they're even on the market. So today, I'm going to be going into what these toxins are, what they do to our health, where you can find them in your home, and what you can replace them with. So, how do you know if you are toxic? Well, if you take in any toxins, if you live in this world, then unfortunately you are toxic. We live in an extremely toxic world, and our bodies are burdened every single day by hundreds and hundreds of chemicals. Toxic chemicals enter the body in the following ways: inhalation, breathing anything from vehicle exhaust, fuel emissions, releases from products and processes that contain VOCs, and of course cigarette and secondhand smoke. Skin contact, touching products that contain and release VOCs, and of course swallowing, not only toxins in our food and beverages, but also chemicals may be swallowed accidentally if, hands, food, cigarettes, or things like lipsticks even are contaminated. And a lot of the lipstick products on the market are hugely contaminated with dangerous chemicals, especially for women. An example of how toxic we are: people have no idea. Mums-to-be typically think that their developing fetus is protected against such things, as these are filtered out by the placenta. I want to refer to a study that I find very interesting. It's conducted in 2005 by E. Galen on the umbilical cord blood of 10 infants. As you know, the umbilical cord is a baby's lifeline, bringing nourishment from the mother and removing waste. It brings the embryo oxygen, nutrients, and a startling array of toxic chemicals. In a first-of-its-kind study, researchers from 2 major labs looked for the presence of toxic chemicals in umbilical cord blood of 10 newborn babies born in U.S. hospitals in August and September 2004. The results are pretty shocking. You ready for this? Of the more than 400 chemicals tested for, 287 were detected in umbilical cord blood. Of these, 180 cause cancer in humans or animals, 217 are toxic to the brain or nervous system, and 208 cause birth defects or abnormal development in animals. Scientists refer to the presence of such toxins in the newborn as body burden. Basically, we as a people are extremely toxic, as you can see. So the impacts of toxins on our health. Later, I'm going to be diving in a little bit more specifically about certain toxins found in our everyday products. But I wanted to briefly outline some of the impacts these toxins can have on our health. So these are some issues known to be associated with increased levels of known toxins in the body. And as you can see, a lot of them are extremely prevalent in society. I'm sure either you have dealt with these, or you know someone in your family or your friends who is suffering from one of these issues. So how do these environmental toxins affect the body specifically? Let's look first at the detoxification system. This includes the liver, the kidneys, the gut, the skin, hair, and lungs. We have no biological use for any toxin or chemical in the body, which is why we are blessed with a very skillful ability to remove them, using the performance of the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, GI tract, skin, hair, and urine excretion. I would argue that it's not the toxin itself that's necessarily the problem, but the extreme levels of toxins taken into our bodies and the impact that these have burden our detoxification system. Excess toxic load exhausts our abilities to remove these toxins and severely depletes the enzymes and nutrients required to remove these from the body. Toxins, as you may know, are not only brought into the body via the lungs, the gut, and the skin, but we also produce billions of toxins each minute as a result of foreign and friendly microbes living in our gut, which I'll go into later, plus the byproducts of our own metabolism. Putting additional toxins and chemicals into our bodies via the air we breathe, the food and drink that we consume, and everything exposed to our skin increase this toxic load to our body and therefore puts extreme stress on our body systems. We have an ability to remove such toxins, but they also require enzymes and nutrients, including antioxidants, to neutralize these toxins and free radicals. Placing more toxins into the system adds a greater demand for these systems to do their work, and therefore increases the demand for nutrients and antioxidants that are required by the body's detoxification systems. Long story short, when our detoxification system is overwhelmed, it gets overloaded. And that's when we start to develop these symptoms and start getting sick, but it may have taken years and years to accumulate this stress and toxins to get to that point. But the big question is, why are some people more sick than others? Like my brother Billy, for example. Well, despite the obvious that some people are obviously more exposed to toxins than others, we are unique individuals. Our body makeup is totally unique to us, and therefore some of us are good at getting rid of toxins, and some of us are not so good. For example, my brother Billy is not so good. The antioxidant glutathione is made by the body via methylation and transsulfuration pathways to attack and neutralize free radicals. Research has actually shown that many individuals diagnosed with regressive autism, like my brother, have genetic mutations associated with this methylation and transsulfuration, and as they are impaired in their abilities to produce glutathione, it may lead them more open to the impact of free radical activity and oxidative damage. Other impacts of toxins in the body, and there are a lot, but we're only going to go into a few today because otherwise I'll run out of time, sadly. Epigenetic changes is the first one. Researchers have identified toxins impact and affect our genes, causing genetic mutations, that's the physical changes in the gene structure, but also epigenetic changes that can silence or activate a gene, turn it permanently on or off. As an example, there's some fungicides and pesticides that actually have been shown to cause an epigenetic change which impaired sperm counts and sperm motility among animals in the womb for 3 subsequent generations. Gut issues. Now, as a nutritional therapy practitioner, this is my favorite topic of all. The gut, as you know, serves so many important functions in the body, such as the digestion of foods, supporting our immune system, productions of nutrients, B vitamins and vitamin K are produced in the gut, and also the synthesis of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, which makes you happy. The gut also protects our body from toxins and from food and drinks consumed, or others produced by the microflora of the gut. It's also responsible for the toxins removed from the blood system by the liver and passed down to the gut for elimination. But if the gut membrane is damaged, or leaky gut, as you may have heard of, is present as a result of an imbalanced microbiome, there will be an increase of resorption and absorption of toxins from the gut. These are then basically taken back to the liver, which will naturally increase liver stress. A rapidly growing body of research has indicated that chemicals used in industry, agriculture, consumer goods, and medications harm gut microbes and have adverse downstream effects on our health. The top 5 groups of environmental toxins that disrupt gut bacteria include pesticides, plasticizers, such as BPA, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and phthalates, heavy metals, and again, pharmaceutical drugs. Brain function, impaired brain function. Many toxins, if they pass into the brain, can have many different effects. I think one way to look at this very simply is that recreational drugs, such as cocaine and alcohol, they're really key examples of how quickly and easily toxins affect and influence brain function. Inflammation. If toxins are not excreted, they're seen by the immune system as foreign, and this will initiate an immune response. The immune system forms an immune complex which circulate in our blood and lymphatic systems. If an immune complex becomes attached to a tissue as it's attacked, it may damage the underlying tissue and subsequently will set up an autoimmune reaction. And we've got to remember that all immune attacks cause inflammation, and these must be kept in check by our anti-inflammatory mediators. If left, it could get out of control, leading to many inflammatory illnesses and diseases, and I'm sure you'll agree that autoimmune conditions are everywhere nowadays. And of course, hormonal disruption. As I've previously mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, synthetic chemicals in our environment mimic human hormones, and so disrupt normal hormonal function in wildlife and humans. The true extent of this problem, though, is unclear, as sadly, only a small handful of the tens of thousands of chemicals in our environment and in active commercial use have actually been tested for their potential as hormone disruptors. So, let's look at chemicals in the home. There are over 150 chemicals found in the average home in the United States. Ingredients in these common household products have been linked to asthma, cancer, reproductive disorders, hormone disruption, and neurotoxicity, and these are only a small list of side effects. What is most shocking to me, though, is that neither the ingredients in these chemicals or the products themselves actually have to meet any sort of safety standard. There is no testing data or notification required before bringing a product to market. And I'm sure you're wondering probably how on earth they get away with that, especially since they are linked so clearly to these diseases. Well, you can thank the Toxic Chemical Substances Act of 1976. This act governs the industry's use of chemicals, allowing them to grandfather in most existing chemicals. The EPA has only required testing for fewer than 200 of the 80,000 existing chemicals, and the EPA has only banned or limited the production of 5 chemicals or groups of chemicals since the enactment of this act. Manufacturers also argue that in small amounts, these toxic ingredients aren't even likely to be a problem, but the issue is we're exposed to them every single day. We're exposed to them routinely, and the combinations haven't been studied either. It's actually impossible to accurately gauge the seriousness of these risks. Yes, maybe if you're exposed to a chemical once or twice in your lifetime, then it may not cause harm, but some chemicals build up enough or cause enough harm in your body over time that it triggers this disease and chronic illness. So let's take a look at your house, room by room, and discover which chemicals are lurking in your home. So first stop is the kitchen. Oven cleaners. Majority contain lye, which is sodium hydroxide, and this is a strongly irritating and corrosive product. It can cause severe burns and permanent damage to any tissue that it comes in contact with. Lye is often actually used to dissolve roadkill dumped in landfills, and that can't be healthy at all for humans. Antibacterial products, and this is something I see so often. People are using their hand sanitizers and wipes thinking, I'm being so healthy by eliminating germs. But these actually often contain ingredients that are absorbed through the skin and linked to severe liver damage. Antibacterial soaps may also contribute to the development of drug-resistant bacteria. All-purpose spray, another very common one in households. Most contain DEA and TEA, and these are known to react with nitrates to form nitrosamines, carcinogens that readily penetrate the skin. They also often contain ammonia, which I'll go into a bit, but that's a strong corrosive. Dishwasher detergent, again, a very common one, and most of them contain highly concentrated chlorine, and this is the #1 cause of child poisonings. And ammonia. Ammonia is a strong corrosive that can damage the skin, eyes, and respiratory tract. And it's really important, I mean, it's important not to use these at all, but if you are going to use them, never ever mix bleach with ammonia, as the fumes they give off can be seriously deadly. The ingredients with high acute toxicity include chlorine bleach and ammonia. These fumes are highly irritating to eyes, nose, throat, and lungs, and should not be used by people with asthma or lung or heart problems, or anyone, in my opinion. These two chemicals pose an added threat in that they can react with each other to form these lung-damaging gases. So that's the kitchen. The laundry room, this is probably the worst one in my opinion. A study from Washington University found that when scented laundry detergents and fabric softeners are used, dryer vents emit more than 25 VOCs per load. Conventional detergents, fabric softeners, and dryer sheets are comprised of a concoction of fragrances which are endocrine disruptors, neurotoxins, and potent cancer-causing chemicals. The purpose of these detergents is to have a signature fragrance which is designed to stay in your clothes for a long period of time so that they smell great. But even the unscented versions add masking chemicals which simply cover up this fragrance with another one, so they're not better at all either, actually. So your laundry room may very well be the most toxic room in your home once these chemicals become airborne when you're washing and drying your clothes. The biggest problem, in my opinion, is the synthetic fragrances. Hundreds of synthetic chemicals are hidden in trade secret fragrance recipes that do not have to be disclosed or tested. According to the EWG, fragrances are considered to be among the top 5 allergens and can very often trigger asthma attacks. Testing by the EWG also revealed that 75% of the fragrances contain phthalates, which have been linked to diabetes, obesity, and hormone disruption, which affects both development and fertility. Mount Sinai Children's Environmental Health Center has actually also linked exposure to synthetic fragrance in first and third trimester prenatal exposure to ADHD and autism. Most laundry products often contain sodium or calcium hypochrite, a highly corrosive agent that can irritate the skin and eyes, and bleach, a corrosive that can burn, as you know, the eyes, skin, and respiratory tract. As you can see from this visual, there are a ton more fragrances and other issues with your laundry detergents and products, and I'll go into later what you can do to swap them out. Moving on to the bathroom. In the bathroom, we have bleach, a very strong corrosive that can damage the eyes, skin, and respiratory tract. Again, as we mentioned before, you must never ever mix bleach with ammonia. The fumes can be hugely deadly. Mold and mildew removers. These often contain sodium hypochlorite, which is a corrosive that can lead to fluid in the lungs, and formaldehyde, which, as you know, is a highly toxic known carcinogen. Drain cleaners. They commonly include lye, which burn the skin and the eyes and the esophagus and stomach if ingested, and this could be accidentally. I think when we think of ingestion, we think picking up a whole liter of the stuff and downing it, but it could be on your hands and then you prepare food and that's going into your body as well. Hydrochloric acid is also a corrosive iron skin irritant, and honestly, these are fatal if ingested, but that's kind of a given. Toilet bowl cleaners. Doesn't it gross you out to clean toilets? Well, the cocktail of toxic chemicals in the commercial toilet bowl cleaners should gross you out even more than that. Corrosive ingredients in toilet bowl cleaners are severe eye, skin, and respiratory irritants. Some toilet bowl cleaners contain sulfates, which may trigger asthma attacks, and bathroom cleaners containing sodium hydroxide, bleach, or phosphoric acid can irritate lungs and burn the eyes, skin, and internal organs. Nail varnish, a common one with us ladies. Acetone, which is the primary ingredient in all nail varnish, is linked to nose, throat, lung, and eye irritation. Shortening of the menstrual cycle in women and long-term exposure is linked to kidney, liver, and nerve damage, as well as increased birth defects. The living area. Air fresheners, and I think this is such a common one. It was actually the hardest one, honestly, for me to give up. Air fresheners and my beloved candles from the dodgy places. Most air fresheners interfere with your ability to smell, actually, by disabling your nasal passages with an oil film or nerve deadening agent. Common chemicals in air fresheners include formaldehyde, the highly toxic known carcinogen, and phenol, which can cause hive, convulsions, circulatory collapse, coma, and even death. Air fresheners may also be linked to other less obvious health effects. In a September 1999 study, researchers at Bristol University in the UK recommended caution in using aerosols and air fresheners after finding that they might be making pregnant women and children sick. In their survey of 14,000 pregnant women, they found that in homes where aerosols and air fresheners were used frequently, mothers suffered from 25% more headaches, 19% more depression, and infants under 6 months had 30% more ear infections and 22 higher incidents of diarrhea. Candles. Most candles are made from paraffin wax, which contains highly toxic benzene and toluene, which, when burnt, are carcinogens. The toxins released from paraffin candles are the same as those found in diesel fuel flames. Also, any scented candles that have wicks that contain heavy metals like lead, and even a few hours of burning them can create levels of airborne heavy metals that are much higher than the acceptable limits. And on top of that, they also contain the nasty artificial fragrances that we previously discussed. Carpet shampoos, and this one is a really easy fix. We'll go into that. So I really don't see the need for it. But the primary ingredient in most carpet shampoos is a known carcinogen, again, that damages the liver, kidneys, and nervous system. Another common ingredient is ammonium hydroxide, which is a corrosive that irritates eyes, skin, and respiratory passages. Furniture polish is one of the worst ones of all. It's very highly flammable, and it's known to cause skin and lung cancer. It often contains phenols as well as nitrobenzene, which is an extremely toxic chemical that's very easily absorbed through the skin. And aerosol spray furniture polishes are very easily inhaled into the lung tissue. And that's only a tiny list. There are loads. I don't know how clearly you can see this graphic, but chemicals in our homes are everywhere. Everything from pesticides, which are obviously extremely toxic and impair the nervous system, paint. Before you add a fresh coat of paint in your home, check to see whether it contains toluene. They're everywhere. And you can check them out. I don't know if you want to write any down. But yes, so we've discussed what these toxic chemicals are doing to our health and where we can find them in our home. But the most important part is, how do we eliminate as many as possible? It's all about making better choices. So knowledge of what is toxic and hazardous allows for more informed and confident decisions making for the whole family. The next step is recognizing that it's up to you and not the government or any company, because they won't, to be sure that your family is safe and to make better choices. My favorite tip is just DIYing it, and I'll go into some store-bought brands too, but even the ones that are labeled as natural, you can't trust them all. So make your own. These honestly are the key essentials that you need in your house. I don't think you really need anything else. Baking soda can be used for so many things. Baking soda is a salt. It is a neutral compound formed from a positively charged ion and a negatively charged ion. But while ionically speaking, baking soda is neutral, its pH is higher than neutral, and this means that it's slightly basic, which is key to understanding why it's such a good cleaner. Because most odors are acidic and baking soda is basic, it reacts with these acids in the air to neutralize them. And it is also an abrasive, which makes for an excellent scrubbing power. White vinegar is also something that everyone needs to have in their house. It's a natural disinfectant, and it has great antimicrobial properties. And I honestly could stop right there. And before I continue, know that white vinegar and baking soda clean literally just about everything in your house. When combined, baking soda and vinegar are cleaning partners in crime, and it's all down to the acid-base reaction. This explosive chemical reaction can do wonders in your kitchen and bathroom. Pouring baking soda and vinegar down a drain can unclog it. Slathering a baking soda paste inside your filthy oven and then splashing a little vinegar on it cuts through grease and leaves it gleaming. I remember actually when my mum first tried the baking soda and vinegar tip, and she poured it down the loo, and there was this weird fizzing explosion type thing going on, but our loo was as clean as it's ever been, so don't be afraid if it's a little funky at first. It's safe and it's cheap too. I also recommend the following ingredients to have on hand just because they smell good and they kind of enhance things. Castile soap, it represents one of the best natural and biodegradable soaps that can be manufactured by hand. It's made from 100% plant oils and is safe and effective. Make sure when you're buying Castile soap that you look at the back because it's getting more and more popular, and so brands are adding in secret chemicals and fragrances and things like that. So make sure you're getting just 100% pure liquid Castile soap. Lastly, essential oils, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with essential oils, but they're the best smelling, naturally antibacterial options for cleaning and making your home smell fabulous, especially if you're using the vinegar. If you're anything like me, you're a little sensitive to that smell. So adding a few essential oils can mask that, and you can choose whatever scent you want to make it smell lovely. So I love to use tea tree, lemon, and lavender when I'm cleaning my home. Obviously, they're very fresh scents, but they also have antibacterial properties. Now, I get asked a lot about borax and the use of borax in the house. This is really up to opinion, and I encourage everyone to do their own research and make their own informed choice. I personally sometimes use borax in certain cleaning recipes because it works really, really well. I have no children or pets who could accidentally ingest it, and in my opinion, it's a far better alternative to the toxic and even natural brands, which I'll go into in a bit, I was previously using thinking they were safe. I'm all about natural products that actually work at the same time. I'm not going to sit here and give you a bunch of recipes to try, and then your house is still going to be left dirty. I want them to work too. That being said, as we go along, feel free to ditch borax in any given recipe. Please know, firstly, that this is not boric acid I'm talking about. It's borax. They're two very different things. And anyway, I'd be happy to sit down with you and share alternative recipes if these aren't going to work for you and your family. So let's revisit the home again and swap out some of the toxic fume-giving chemicals and focus on some clean, better-for-you products that you can very easily make at home. Also, don't be intimidated by making your own stuff. I remember reading some of these recipes initially on Pinterest and being like, gosh, well, I don't think I can make an all-purpose spray recipe that's actually going to clean my house. But it's actually so simple, again, so cheap, and once you try it, you'll never go back, I promise you. So this is my all-purpose spray recipe that I use for pretty much everything. I'm an avid baker, and so my kitchen is always a mess. But this all-purpose spray recipe works wonders. It's literally just 1 cup of white vinegar, a tablespoon of baking soda, water, and essential oils of choice. Again, I really am into lavender at the moment, but honestly, anything will work. Some companies even offer great fall blends that you can use at this time of year, Christmas scents and things like that. But basically, all you do is add everything to a spray bottle and shake it to combine. You can buy some really awesome glass bottles off Amazon, and they're very affordable, and they're on Prime, so they'll come to your house tomorrow if you want. Baking soda can also be used for just a ton of different things. You can remove marks from your walls by wiping just a damp sponge dipped in baking soda. When Billy was really severe as a kid, our walls were constantly covered in everything, all sorts of things that you don't even want to know. But this worked every time without us having to resort to toxic chemicals. Washing your windows, you can just mix water and vinegar in a 1-to-1 ratio, spray it on your windows, and use a microfiber cloth to clean it. Again, I've talked about the dirty loos, but you can just pour in some white vinegar and some baking soda if you want, and it helps to kill bacteria and eliminate odors. The laundry room, which is my favorite room of the house, but it used to be a very toxic one until I changed some things up. Laundry detergent, and this is one that's very personal to people. I feel like people are very fussy about how their clothes smell and if they're soft and if they're clean. But this has worked for me for years without fail. So my recipe is 2/3 of a cup of organic washing soda. Some people actually haven't heard of this. You can buy it off Amazon. Again, really, really affordable, super clean ingredients and totally organic, which is very important to me. Baking soda, Castile soap, water, and if you're anything like me, you want your clothes to smell nice, so you can add a few drops of essential oil and play around with different smells and scents that work for you and your family. Some people are sensitive to essential oils, so bear that in mind. But basically, bring the water to a boil, pour the washing soda in, and then stir in the boiling water until it's completely dissolved, the washing soda. Then you add your baking soda a little bit at a time and your Castile soap. Put it in add all the remaining water and then cool it and store it in a glass jar. You can just keep it in your laundry room in a cupboard, and then whenever you're ready to go, just shake it and pour it in the little laundry detergent section or just in with the clothes. And then it's honestly as easy as that. It's really, really simple, and definitely give it a try because, as we learned, the typical detergents are extremely toxic to health. Fabric softener. Again, this is another thing that for ages I just couldn't give it up, and it's one of the most toxic things in the house. So I was very surprised when all you need to do to make your clothes soft is add some vinegar to the fabric softener section and then add baking soda, which lowers the pH of the water and keeps your clothes nice and soft. Again, you can add some essential oils to add a little bit of scent in there. And then my favorite one, which I found more recently, I don't think they even have dryer sheets that much in the UK, so I wasn't familiar with them until I came to America. But everyone was using them, and I was like, well, I can't use them because they're hugely toxic. But it's a great way to reuse old clothes. You can cut up scraps of T-shirts and anything else that you're not using. Basically, in a big cup, mix some white vinegar and essential oils, whatever you fancy your clothes to smell like. Cut up and fold your old T-shirts or any scraps that you have laying around and place them in a large mason jar, and then you just pour a little bit of this vinegar and essential oil mixture over until they're lightly damp, and then just throw them in with in the drying machine with your clothes. And then also dryer balls. I'm sure people are very familiar with them. They're getting more and more popular, which is awesome. You can even buy them at like TJ Maxx or Target and places like that. But wool dryer balls help to remove the static cling, and they also shorten the time it takes to do a load of laundry. So that's always good. So that's my laundry room nowadays. Air fresheners is another huge one that I struggled to give up. You can make your homemade Febreze. My fiance Max, he loved Febreze for ages when I met him. He refused to give it up. He has a new truck, and so he was constantly spraying Febreze in it to make it all nice and smell good. But to me, it was just toxic chemicals in a little truck. But anyway, I got him to make his homemade Febreze, and honestly, if he'll do it, anyone will fall in love with this recipe. But it's very easy. Again, just get yourself a glass spray bottle. Put in a tablespoon of baking soda, 2 cups of water, and 10 drops of whatever essential oil you want your car or home to smell like. Mix them all together, and then you can just spritz away. And it naturally deodorizes the air and smells good without breathing in all those nasty fragrances. Beeswax candles have been another game changer for me. So you can definitely make your own beeswax candles, but honestly, I've never done that before. I'm a little too lazy to make my own candles, but I urge you, if you want to, there's a ton of different recipes on Pinterest and on Google that you can find, and if you do, let me know and I'll buy some off you. But I buy loads and loads of beeswax votives off Amazon, again for a great price, and they last me forever. My house is literally littered with them, and it's beautiful. And also they just release a natural honey scent into the air. And they also release negative ions in the air, which can help bind to toxins and actually remove them from the air, which is great. Essential oils in diffusers. This is, again, something that's becoming very, very popular. They can be a great alternative to chemical air fresheners, but as with anything, essential oils can actually be harmful if a person has prolonged exposure, and some people are very sensitive to certain oils. So it's extremely important to use pure therapeutic grade essential oils, not just ones from your local grocery store, which often contain additives and are from sprayed crops. So find a good source. I love, personally, plant therapy is a great one for me as someone on a budget, a young person. They're very affordable and also that high quality, so I highly recommend them. Store-bought brands. So this is something that really annoyed me. I only found this out about a year ago, but I was using some of these brands that I now avoid, thinking that I was doing the right thing, choosing something that's toxin-free and safe, and actually they're really, really expensive too. So be aware of greenwashing. It's a real thing. As more and more people are involved and interested in holistic health and natural products, more and more companies are bringing out products that are marketed directly to us. They're labeled all natural and safe and eco-friendly and cruelty-free and all these things, but be very aware of what is actually in them. I've listed just some companies up there that I really trust and value. If you're wary at all, call the company and ask them questions. Ask them, I don't know this ingredient. Can you explain it a little more? Where are you sourcing it from? Are your products certified organic? If they're not, are they actually organic and you just can't afford the certification? Or do you use, cheap, nasty products that are going to harm me in any way? And my rule of thumb is if a company isn't willing to speak with you, they're not worth your money. Don't buy from them. Some brands I avoid: Mrs. Mayer's, 7th Generation, Method, Arm & Hammer, Greenworks, and Baby Dreft. We were told to use Baby Dreft on our horse, and again, it's labeled as natural, so you'd think it was safe, but it's not. And 7th Generation and Mrs. Mayer's in particular were quite shocking to me because I know they're often a go-to for people in the holistic health community. Again, thinking they're making a safe choice, but they actually contain some ingredients that are still very harmful to health. And you can look on the EWG app. They also have a website. And it kind of breaks down some of the ingredients in these products so you can really check them out for yourself and figure out whether they're a good fit for your family or if you'd better to be avoiding them. So, other things you can do to reduce your exposure to toxic chemicals. Firstly, it's kind of a given, but if you have any toxic products in your home, ditch them immediately. Even in their packaging, actually, they're hugely harmful, and especially when you've opened them and set them aside. For a while, I had just my toxic products sitting in my garage, and I didn't really know what to do with them, and then I learned that they're still harming me. They're open, toxic, chemical-containing products sitting in my house, and therefore in my air that I'm breathing every single day. If you really, really, really must have 1 or 2 products, and I hope after this presentation you will not deem them necessary, but if you do, then keep them in a detached shed as far away from your house as possible. Trust your nose. When you smell that chemical smell, sometimes it smells really nice, and sometimes it smells horrible. You're inhaling toxic VOCs. Bathroom and kitchen fans are great for removing VOCs from the air, especially because cooking and cleaning, especially if you're using Teflon pans, for example, they can release some potent and even carcinogenic compounds. My tip is to run fans until any chemical or smoke smell has dissipated and then turn them off. Again, trusting your nose is a huge one. If you can smell it, you're inhaling it. So you either need to leave that area or try and increase ventilation. And that's my next point. Increase the amount of fresh air in your home. When I was growing up in the UK, it was kind of chilly, and so we would always have our windows open and keep our house very, very ventilated. But here I feel like not as many people do that, so do it. It will help reduce the concentration of VOCs indoors. Obviously, you can increase ventilation by opening doors and windows. You can use fans to maximize the air brought in from the outside. In terms of temperature and humidity, honestly, as low as possible or comfortable is best. Chemicals off-gas more in high temperatures and humidity. Dusting and hand washing. Obviously, hand washing with non-chemical hand wash soap. A recent study, actually published in the Journal of Exposure, Science and Environmental Epidemiology, looked at exposure to chemicals in the home before and after increases in house cleaning and hand washing. They found that after a small group of women increased their house cleaning and hand washing, the levels of harmful common flame retardants in their bodies plummeted. Researchers believe that household dust is the primary way most people are exposed to flame retardants, which leach out of products into the environment. Furthermore, a lot of the dust enters our bodies when we put our hands to our mouth, leaving children in particular most susceptible. One week of increased hand washing or targeted house cleaning is enough, in some cases, to reduce exposure to flame retardants by half, the authors wrote. I found this study only recently, and I found it very interesting. It's a very simple thing that some people look over, but it can reduce exposure to flame retardants by half, which is quite a significant amount in my opinion. Purifying the air with houseplants. Some of my favorite houseplants for purifying the air in your home are bamboo plants, which are effective at removing chemical contaminants from the air like formaldehyde and benzene. The rubber plant is especially effective for removing formaldehyde from indoor air. The dwarf date palm is one of the most effective palms for removing indoor air pollution, especially xylene, which is found in solvents and paint thinner. And philodendrons are one of the best houseplants overall for purifying indoor air, plus they're hardy and they require little upkeep. And if you're anything like me, I have a horrible tendency to kill my houseplants. I hate to say it. But yeah, they're very easy to keep in the house. They look pretty too, and they purify your air at the same time. But make sure, as with anything, to research and check out any plant before bringing it into your home, especially if you have children and pets who may eat it or anything like that. Himalayan salt lamps. Himalayan salt lamps actually work to purify the air. When they're lit, the lamp emits negative ions that fight against positively charged particles that cause you to feel that stuffy and sluggish, just kind of yucky feeling. The lit salt crystal clears the air naturally of allergens like smoke, pet dander, pollens, and other air pollutants. It dilutes odors as well, so that you can breathe easier, and people with asthma often find it very helpful in reducing their symptoms. They're also very affordable. So what can you do to support yourself against environmental toxins? Well, we've learned how to eliminate what harms, but it's also important that we support ourselves by adding what heals. In order to decrease the body's burden of our toxic world, and unfortunately it's inevitable that we are exposed to some toxic chemicals if we live in this society, we must support our body's ability to get rid of the toxins on its own. Eliminating toxins relieves oxidative stress and inflammation. Now, before I go into it, there are so many ways to detox and support your body, and I am a big believer that every single one of us is very unique, and therefore when it comes to detoxification, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So I highly recommend finding a practitioner, whether that's a nutritional therapy practitioner or a naturopath or someone who specializes in detox, to create a personalized and preventative healthcare plan for you, whether you're trying to detox or just to support yourself going forward. But here are some tips that everyone can do very easily, and it's just since my family have kind of taken on board these steps, we've seen huge increases in functioning, less headaches, and acne cleared up, things like that. So first off, my favorite one is cleaning up your diet, and obviously eating real unprocessed food is a given. Quality, in my opinion, is key when it comes to food. If you're going to eat chicken, turkey, lamb, pork, make sure that it's natural, pasture-raised, organic, of a very high quality. Eggs, make sure they're farm fresh, cage-free, organic, pasture-raised. What the chickens are eating, and we recently got chickens, whatever they're eating, you're consuming when you eat their eggs. If you're buying fish, salmon and fish, make sure it's wild caught. Avoid the farm-raised junk. Avoid soy, especially if it's not organic and fermented, and incorporate fermented foods into your diet. Organic, it's so important. When we buy organic food, we reduce our exposure to pesticides and herbicides. Also, avoiding packaged food means avoiding further chemical exposure through things like MSG and nitrates and synthetic colorings and flavorings, and also preservatives including BHA, BHT, and TBHQ, which is actually made from petroleum, which is nice to know that that's allowed in our food. Focus on healing your gut. 70% of your immune system lies in the gut. So when the gut is healthy and happy, you are healthy and happy. By improving the diet, as mentioned before, a significant change can be made in the toxic load and in the immune system. Our gut's greatest virtue is its enormous population of probiotic bacteria and microflora, which can help remove these foreign toxic substances from our body and keep everything in balance. A good balance between the good and the bad bacteria will allow for proper digestion and eliminating these toxins, and will also decrease bloating, constipation, and malabsorption. It also helps, a good gut helps with allergies and inflammation as well. Staying hydrated. This is something that everyone overlooks. We need to be drinking at least half of our body weight in water every single day, more if we're drinking diuretics. The kind of rule of thumb that I go by is if you have a cup of coffee, drink 1.5 times the amount of how much coffee it was in water to support yourself. We have these waterways all over our body, and they're responsible for trapping and flushing out all manner of toxins that we absorb each day. This system, which is an extension of the liver, kidneys, and immune system, is called the lymphatic system, as you may know. It absorbs fluids from various parts of our body using these waterways, which are designed to trap, transport, and remove the pathogens, carcinogens, cancerous cells, and all the other unwelcome substances we're around every single day. Though the way the lymphatic system works is quite mysterious and it definitely requires more research, one thing is for certain, and that's that it needs fluids to function. So don't underestimate the cleansing power of good water. Finally, it's crucial that you support your liver. All of the blood that flows through our digestive systems, carrying these nutrients, toxins, and medicines, ends up in the liver, where the good and the bad are sorted out from each other. It's so important that we support this multitasking organ by getting more liver-healthy foods into the diet. You can also support with supplementation, but again, I recommend you speak to a practitioner about what exactly is going to work for you, and you can get so many great nutrients from food, and I'm a big believer that food should always come first when it comes to getting what we need. Foods rich in antioxidants, which slow down free radical damage that wears the liver down over time, are great choices, and one of my favorites is beets. Also, foods rich in vitamin K are great for the liver, for their blood clotting abilities, and these include things like celery, broccoli, kale, and all other leafy greens. You can also look into herbs such as dandelion root and milk thistle. Some products now, there's a dandy blend tea, which tastes just like coffee, and it's really rather delicious. It's a very easy way to get dandelion root into your system every day, which is great for supporting your liver. So there are many things we can do to support our body. The bottom line is that we live in a toxic world, unfortunately. We can't truly escape these chemicals and toxins altogether if we're living in this earth. However, what we can do is never give up. We can always try our best to support ourselves however we can. We can be the change and educate as many people as possible so they too are informed on how to protect themselves and their families best. I truly believe that together we can help others fall in love with this low toxin living, which makes all things so much easier, even if it's one little baby step at a time. That is it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I don't know what the time is, if we have questions now or 2:05, yeah, we have 10 minutes to do some questions. If you have any, if not, I'm going to be at the little Peeps TV booth out there and I can chat all weekend long, so come and have a talk with me.
If you have a question, can you go up to the microphone?
Yes.
Two questions.
Okay.
First one is, you mentioned paraffin wax in the candles.
Yes.
So in the nail salons, you go in and you get the paraffin wax dip.
Right.
But you said it was the burning of the paraffin wax. So is the dip is toxic as well?
Well, firstly, I mean, you can walk into a nail salon and you immediately get this extreme woof of whatever on earth is in there. Nail salons in general are a toxic hellhole. My thing is everything in moderation. There are some great non-toxic alternatives to nail polish that you can try out there. But honestly, in my opinion, they don't always work the best. So right now my nails are empty. I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and so I am going to go to the nail salon and wear a little mask. But in general, yes, I recommend just avoiding them altogether. There's so many toxic chemicals in the nail salon that it's best to just avoid it. And if you do go, maybe try bringing the non-toxic paint. For me, I think it may be a problem that I just don't know how to paint my nails myself. So bring them the non-toxic polish and see what they can do. But yeah, I highly avoid any of that glue or the paraffin on there, which is still heated, I think, and under the UV lights and things. So I think it's just best to avoid it altogether, in my opinion. But again, everything in moderation.
And my second question is the magic erasers, Mr. Clean magic
What's that?
erasers. They're the little white pads that you can get like crayon off the wall or off your couch. I've used it to get. I don't know what's in those things. I have
So
no idea.
if I'm honest, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
But is it a standard product that you can buy? Well, then I'm guessing if it's a standard product that's sold in stores and it's dry and can get stuff off the walls, then there's probably.
Put water on it, it's dry, put water on it, and then it'll, yeah.
Well, personally, I've never heard of it, and I think if it has that power to get things off the wall and it's a dry cloth, there's definitely something in there.
It'll take a finish right off of the table.
Okay, then absolutely I would avoid that. I think with anything, and there are more and more new products, and they even I don't know that product, but they may even market it as, this is so healthy, you don't have to use any of these spray chemicals on there, you can literally just dip it in water and wipe it on the wall, and that's great. But I think lots of people sadly will buy into that, but I think it's so important for us not to get lazy, not fall into the marketing trap and pick up every single product if we're not making it ourselves, and read through every ingredient. And if there is an ingredient on there that's very long and complicated, look it up, do some research. Honestly, even if you don't want to use the EWG app and it's not always reliable, just type that ingredient into Google, Google Scholar, and have a look at all the different studies that I'm sure have been done linking it to all sorts of scary diseases. Yeah, you're welcome. Any others? Nope. Well, thank you so much for coming and listening to me. I hope that you learned something. And again, I'll be outside of the Peeps TV booth all weekend. And I'm also doing another talk at 6 about toxin-free living on a budget, which is very important to me, being a young, just out of college person.
It's at 5 o'clock, that's it.
Sorry, 5 o'clock. Thanks, Christine.